So here is what Glenn Greenwald, he lays this down really well about what's going on with Russia and our big paranoia about Russia hacking into our elections. He wrote this great article. He says anonymous leaks to the Washington Post about the CIA's Russia belief are no substitute for evidence. So this all started on this big Washington Post article, and the CIA leaked. And he says the Washington Post late Friday night published an explosive story that in many ways is classic American journalism of the worst sort. The key claims are based exclusively on the unverified assertions of anonymous officials who in turn are disseminating their own claims about what the CIA purportedly believes, all based on evidence that remains completely secret. So let's just break this down. This is a great paragraph. The key claims are based exclusively, not some of them or all of them, are based on unverified assertions of anonymous officials. So we have people who won't tell us who they are, telling us stuff that we can't verify. But the Washington Post, it's a great story. Right. And these anonymous government officials are in turn disseminating their own claims about what the CIA purportedly believes, all based on evidence that remains completely secret. The CIA has concluded in a secret assessment that Russia intervened in the 26. This is from the Washington Post. They said 2016 to help Donald Trump win the presidency rather than just to undermine confidence in the U.S. electoral system. The anonymous officials also claim that, quote, intelligence agencies have identified individuals with connections to the Russian government who provided WikiLeaks with thousands of hacked emails from both the DNC and John Podesta's email account. Really? That's unsubstantiated. That's unverified. You have no fucking proof of that. None. Critically, none of the actual evidence for these claims is disclosed in the Washington Post article. None. None of the actual evidence for these claims. Indeed, the CIA's secret assessment itself remains concealed. A second leak from Friday, this one given to the New York Times, cites another anonymous official asserting that the Russians hacked the Republican National Committee's computer systems in addition to their attacks on Democratic organizations, but did not release whatever information they gleaned from the Republican networks. This is what they're saying. They're saying this as fact in the Washington Post. It is also far from clear that Russia's original intent was to support Mr. Trump, and many intelligence officials and former officials in Mr. Clinton's campaign believe that the primary motive of the Russians was to simply disrupt the campaign and undercut confidence in the integrity of the vote. Far from clear. It says far from clear that Russia's original intent was to support Mr. Trump. Again, no evidence that they did this. There were minor disagreements. Oh, by the way, so this is from that article in Washington Post. It says there were minor disagreements among intelligence officials about the agency's assessment, in part because some questions remained unanswered. What? There were disagreements among intelligence officials about the agency's assessment? That sounds a lot like the small disagreements about, I don't know, aluminum tubes on the front page of the fucking New York Times over weapons of mass destruction and the Iraq War. Doesn't that sound like a minor disagreement? That's what that sounds like. He goes on to say intelligence agencies do not have specific intelligence showing officials in the Kremlin directing the identified individuals to pass the Democratic emails to WikiLeaks. They do not have that. They don't have it. And by the way, Julian Assange says that Russia did not give them those emails. And I think I bring this up. But the purpose of both anonymous leaks is to finger the Russian government for these hacks, acting with the motive to defeat Hillary Clinton. So that's why the CIA released these leaks of these purported hacks, because they're trying to finger the Russian government to try to defeat Hillary Clinton. And so Glenn then concludes by saying, Democrats, still eager to make sense of their election loss and to find causes for it other than themselves, immediately declared these anonymous claims about what the CIA believes to be true. and with a somewhat sweet religious-type faith, treated these anonymous assertions as proof of what they wanted to believe all along, that Vladimir Putin was rooting for Donald Trump to win and Hillary Clinton to lose and used nefarious means to ensure that outcome. The Democrats are now venerating unverified anonymous CIA leaks as sacred. The Democrats are now venerating unverified anonymous CIA leaks as sacred is par for the course for them this year. But it is also a good indication of how confused and lost the U.S. political culture has become in the wake of Trump's presidency. So he goes on a little bit more. He does say this. He goes, it was announced yesterday afternoon, meaning Friday, that Obama had ordered a full review of hacking allegations, which he should do. You should. He says perfectly sensible step that makes clear that an investigation is needed and evidence disclosed before any definitive conclusions can be reached. So Obama calls for an investigation. Let's get the facts before we draw a conclusion. Let's not. Glenn says, but that it was right on the heels of that announcement, Obama announcing the investigation, that the CIA leak emerged, shortcutting the actual deliberative investigative process Obama had ordered in order to lead the public to believe that all the answers were already known. And before the investigation even starts, that Russia was guilty of all charges. So that's propaganda. That's CIA releasing propaganda and the Washington Post doing their bidding and then publishing that story in the way they did. More important is what the Washington Post, buries in its story. Namely, what are the so-called minor disagreements among intelligence officials about the agency's assessment? So the CIA says that there's disagreements about the agency's intelligence officials about the agency's assessment. Well, what are the disagreements? This is what he's saying. How minor are they? And what do these conclusions really mean if at the Post sources admit that the CIA is not even able to link the hack to the actual Russian government, but only to people outside the government? This is from the Post article. It says, those actors, according to the official, were one step removed from the Russian government rather than government employees. So the unnamed official at the CIA said that those actors, according to the unnamed official, were one step removed. So even that unnamed anonymous official at the CIA is saying that, no, it wasn't actually the person in the government. It was someone outside the Russian government. Even they're saying
they used to be better liars.
That's a shitty lie.
It's a shitty lie.
This is what Glenn says. He says this is why such a shoddy and unreliable practice to conduct critical debates through conflicting anonymous leaks. That's why it's such a shoddy and unreliable practice. That's why. And that's what the Washington Post is doing. They're conducting a shoddy and unreliable debate with conflicting anonymous leaks. Newspapers like the Post have the obvious incentive to hype the flashy, flamboyant claims while downplaying and burying the caveats and conflicting evidence. None of these questions can be asked, let alone answered, because the people who are making these claims are hidden and the evidence is concealed. Questions about who hacked the DNC and Podesta email accounts are serious and important ones. The answers have widespread implications on many levels, but none of these questions can be asked, let alone answered, because the people who are making these claims are hidden and the evidence is concealed. Meaning that reporters can't go question the guy from the CIA who said this, and we can't look at the evidence he said that proves this, because there isn't any. It's all hidden. It's all concealed. It's all made up. That's all the more reason these debates should be based on publicly disclosed evidence, not competing unverifiable anonymous leaks from professional liars inside government agencies, cheered by drooling lost partisans anxious to embrace whatever claims make them feel good. All conducted without the slightest regard for rational faculties or evidentiary requirements. And I'll give you one more piece of evidence. This is the former ambassador to Russia, the UK's former ambassador to Russia. This is what he says about this. He says, if you think about it, if they really did know who the hackers are, meaning the CIA, if it was a hack, they would be taking action against these people. And they're not. There's no one arrested. They didn't go after anybody. They haven't named names, pointed a finger, nothing. He goes on to say, they plainly have no idea what's happening or they would be taking action against people. So the CIA is simply lying about knowing what's happening and knowing who the people are. They don't know, and if they did know, they would act. That's Craig Murray, former UK ambassador to Russia. So whether it's true or not or whatever, what this proves is that shitty journalism is ensconced in America now. We have Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post. The New York Times already led us into the Iraq War. Talk about fake fucking news. Everybody on TV's got their heads so far up their ass. It's unbelievable. A critical thinker is few and far between in this day and age.
We'll figure it out.
And this is horrible for the Democrats, by the way. It doesn't help them. Go ahead.
We'll figure it out together.
Well,
as
MSNBC, we'll
says.
figure it out together. Lean forward till you hit your head really hard. And then you'll black out and you won't know how shitty we are.
So, Jimmy, to summarize this, if you could for me, what I'm getting from this is that the liars are lying to the press who are lying about what the liars are lying about.
Yes.
Is that the truth?
I think I followed you. So it just shows you how worthless. Like, just be skeptical journalists. But they're not. They're drooling partisans. I love how he put it. What did he call them? Cheered by drooling, lost partisans anxious to embrace whatever claims make them feel good. There's all your horrible journalists. Your Matthew Iglesias, all the, you know who I'm talking about. I don't have to go through it again. It gets tiresome naming names. But how about all of them? Hey, we're doing another live Jimmy Dore show the day after Christmas, December 26th. We're doing a live Jimmy Dore show in Burbank, California. Come see it. There's a link for tickets right there.